Welcome back to the channel, thank you for coming back. Super excited about what got done over winter break. This is just about where we left off last devlog. You can see the other player and they can kind of shoot you can shoot back, but saying this is a 2D multiplayer PvP shooter with fast-paced gameplay is a stretch. There are a bunch of error messages popping up and the player enemy just doesn't flip or animate. Sometimes bullets stick around for some reason and their names don't work either. The health bar also, let's not even talk about it. They both spawn in the same spot and the host gets to move around wherever as well, and also nothing happens when the player dies. There's also no way to know when you will die, because the health bar does nothing. Not knowing how many more shots you can take and dying instantly was really frustrating when playtesting, so functional health bars was definitely one of the first things I wanted to get done. Honestly, it was a pretty difficult thing to implement, and I didn't figure it out in one sitting, because the way I programmed health in hindsight just won't work as I scale the project, and it's definitely going to need to be reworked in the future. Since I got a little stuck on the whole health system, I moved to making the players see each other properly. So that meant flipping, animating, names working, and their weapons also being there. Flipping was pretty simple, I just used RPCs. RPC stands for Remote Procedure Call. There are two versions of the player, one on your client and one on the other player's client. Whenever one player RPCs a method, like dance, it calls it on the other player's user as well. If you don't get that, it's fine, I explained it terribly, but it makes a lot of sense when you use it. I thought syncing animation would be really simple because Photon has a component that manages networking animations, but that doesn't work with the custom animation system I made. Luckily, using RPCs, I was able to solve that issue too. Every time the local player changes animations, he RPCs it to the other client as well. That didn't exactly work perfectly first try, but after I did get it working, it was such a big game changer visually. It's a lot easier to tell what the enemy is up to just at a glance. Before, the enemy would always be idling. Just based on this, you can't tell what the enemy is up to. But now, you can tell when he's running at you, away from you, you can tell when they're jumping, and even when they're recording voiceovers for their devlog at 4 AM. As much as I miss the moonwalking enemy, the animations are definitely a nice change. After I got those two features in, I wanted to make the username system actually work. That was super easy. Every networked player has a username attached to them when they join the game, so I just set the text above the player to that. Pretty simple, and as I did that, I got the enemy's player weapon showing and switching to. Those two things did plenty to make the other player feel more human controlled. And with that, the core functionality of the multiplayer was finally, truly done. Next, I wanted to upgrade the render pipeline, get some work done on the mouse, and get an icon drafted up really quickly. Upgrading the render pipeline took a few minutes, but I haven't gotten the sprites updated. Hopefully that'll allow me to implement some interesting lighting effects after the sprites get updated. For the cursor sprite, I went for a crosshair design that had a decent gap around the center and wasn't too clunky. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, but it might get a refresh later. The way the cursor system was programmed actually allows me to change the cursor at any time. I can switch this to a reloading symbol when you're reloading, maybe a skull and crossbones symbol when you're dead, and maybe to a nade if I ever do add throwables to the game. So basically I just have plenty of options. The next thing on the to-do list was getting the round starting system into the game. First, I threw in an easily animated countdown timer, and I think it looks great and gets the job done. Later on, I might touch it up a bit and add an explosion behind the boom, but this is good for now. You're not able to move or fire before the countdown is over, but that doesn't really matter if the players just spawn in the center of the map. Easy, obvious solution. Spawn the players at different places. Easy to make too, right? Yeah, super easy. Easy for me? Apparently not, because I needlessly overcomplicate everything and waste 2 hours on a system that I scrapped and made work in like 5 minutes. So that was a time sink, but after I got that whole system working, it made the game feel a lot more polished, and I'd say it turned out quite beautiful. Just like the UI we made last devlog, but the UI doesn't do anything. The ammo counter, reload status, active gun, and health all had to be made functional. I tried to get the active gun working first. Looking through the footage now, I'm noticing that it doesn't even work. There's nothing there, so I'll have to go back and fix that later. After I got that working, I just had the text on the ammo update to the player's ammo count, the reload status update to whether or not you're reloading. Those two were super simple. And finally, I got the health bars fully functional. Somewhere in there I blacked out and added pointless shading to the cursor for some reason, but with that, the UI was complete and operating as intended. One night I was just tinkering with the project, not really sitting down and working on anything too intense. I noticed a weird thing going on with the way the network players were working. They were just buggy. What I found out was that the enemy player, which should just be at the position of the enemy on their client, was doing physics calculations and moving around based on external forces on your client. As you can see, it leads to some really bad desync, but it was just a one-line fix and then it worked perfectly. Very happy that I was messing around with that. The last thing I was able to throw in this winter break was just a way to get the players to push each other. That was a big design problem that I'd been struggling to figure out for a while. I'm currently taking the easy way out by adding a closing zone that the players will take damage from outside of. Nothing fancy with this zone, just closing right to the center of the map at a consistent pace. It's a little quick and just comes out of nowhere kinda, so it definitely needs some touching up, but it works and it forces the players to move to the center, so it does its job. My friends and some people I reached out to on Discord really want skins, and I get that, I want them in there too. Here's a little preview of a couple boom dudes and weapons that I'll hopefully have in the game by next devlog. With all that said, that's the end of this devlog. Thank you for following along. I'll see you all next time.
Mentions for a character.
Character.
Mr. Krabs, I have an idea.
Where's character? Player.
You should make